Hello, this is Vlad and a new author's story from my channel Amazing Stories. Natalia Leonidovna, the stranger on the line asked coldly. Can you talk now? Yes, Natasha babbled, frantically trying to figure out what was going on. What happened? Who are you? The number is unfamiliar. Your husband's car was in an accident. The voice muttered calmly and a little tiredly. My name is Marit Alexandrovich, I work in the police. I will be handling your case. What about Matvey? He is in the hospital, Natasha exclaimed, almost losing consciousness. Come on, don't drag it out. We don't know for sure, the policeman sighed. You need to come to morgue and make an identification. What do you mean? Will I have to look at my husband? Natasha asked with a tremor in her voice. Are there no other candidates? Come on, stop it. The car was on fire. The body can only be identified by DNA. But you don't have children. Look at the things that survived. Nothing terrible will happen, Marit Alexandrovich assured her. I work until 7, she whispered. The management is strict, they are unlikely to let me go. Probably, it is not every day that your husband dies, the policeman rudely interrupted her. Here's what. Go to your management right now and do not hang up. I will ask you to leave myself, and then go down and wait at the gate. I will come in an hour, I will take you to identify. Every minute counts. Natasha obediently carried the phone to the office of the head of the kindergarten. She had been working there as a teacher for 10 years. And although she herself did not have children, she adored the little ones, they reciprocated their beloved teacher. Klavdia Petrovna was not happy about the breach of subordination, but after listening to the policeman on the phone, she turned pale and briefly said goodbye. Then she jumped up and rushed to Natasha. Sit down quickly, I'll give you a sedative now. What a tragedy. Quote. The usually stern headmistress fussed around her. Did your Matvey really crash? I haven't figured it out myself yet, Natasha answered quietly. Klavdia Petrovna, don't you know how to identify someone? My God, girl, how can you go alone without preparation? The headmistress threw up her hands. The mumbling policeman blurted everything out at once. So, I won't let you go alone. We'll go together. I'll get ready now, and you sit for now. Klavdia Petrovna, I don't need anything, Natalia sighed. I'll manage somehow. Well, flying out mother. Suddenly the stern headmistress smiled. Milka, my friend, always said the same thing. How you resemble your mother, but I somehow never noticed before. It's a pity that she died so early. And I hardly remember her, Natasha sighed. Became friends? We are classmates, Klavdia Petrovna smiled. Didn't Grandma tell you about it? She got you into the kindergarten here so that you would work under my supervision. She knew even then that she was sick. Not much time left, I was worried all the time. How will you be here alone? I promised to look after you, but you did a good job yourself. Natasha smiled weakly. In this action, her grandmother Razosifovna was easily recognized. A beautiful, kind woman who lost her daughter early. Natasha didn't remember her parents at all. Her mother left when she was 3, from some literally simple infection, like the flu. She was a teacher in a kindergarten and seemed to get regular vaccinations, but she still got infected with a typical seasonal virus. Little Natasha was left in the care of her grandmother. Her father immediately went somewhere far away. He sent alimony regularly, but he didn't want to be personally present in his daughter's life. Until she was 20, Natasha lived with her grandmother, and then Rosalia Iosifovna died. True, she first arranged for her granddaughter, who continued their dynasty of teachers, to go to this kindergarten. While she was deep in thought, Klavdia Petrovna managed to get ready. The manager grabbed Natasha by the arm and dragged her to the cloakroom. She helped her put on her coat. For some reason, Natasha's hands did not obey her at all. She grabbed her employee's bag and dragged her to the exit. Soon a car pulled up. Both women moved towards it. Are you with an honorary escort, or what? The young man behind the wheel asked with a grin. About Natasha's age. But I don't bite. They could have come without security. Young man, You have to grin at a time like this. Klavdia Petrovna pulled him away. Better shut up, girls, it's not easy as it is. What am I saying, it's just professional humor. Marit Alexandrovich waved it off. Well, ladies, it's been decided to carry out the identification of the items at the department. They're in my personal documents anyway, so you'll be spared a trip to Morkovo. Natasha breathed a sigh of relief. She was generally panicky afraid of hospitals, and she didn't see any difference in the morgue. The same tiled walls, cold and hopelessness. Soon they arrived at the department, went into the office, passing the duty officer. Marit Alexandrovich filled out some papers, then opened the safe and laid out 3 things in front of Natasha. A signet ring, crumpled, but with a recognizable pattern, a watch in yellow metal with stopped hands and for some reason a dental crown. Natasha stared at this set and froze. Well, do you recognize it? The policeman asked her impatiently. And if not? Natasha sighed. You see, for some reason I doubt it, I can't help myself. Natalia Leonidovna, what's wrong with you? Marit Alexandrovich sighed. You can't recognize your husband's ring. The watch might not be the same. At first glance, it seems the same, Natasha sighed. Listen, maybe DNA would be better? Matvey's mother is alive, let them compare with her. And what, you don't know? The policeman asked. He was adopted by Svetlana Anatolievna. This is her husband's son from his first marriage. She is not the boy's biological mother. How is that possible? Natasha was amazed and rubbed her temples. Her head hurt very badly. Okay, was there anything in her ear? My husband wore earrings since his youth. Nothing special, just a memory of the past. But he treasured them very much. I'm sure Matvey would not have taken them off. We don't know, Marit Alexandrovich answered, strangely embarrassed. Very bad damage. So, you can't identify him for sure. But his mother, even though she's an adoptive mother, is absolutely sure of it. I have the identification protocol signed by her. Are you going to argue, Natalia Leonidovna? No, I won't, Natasha sighed. Let me sign the protocol when something is decided about the funeral. We'll sort out the examinations and call, the policeman promised. But for now, the preliminary version is a car malfunction or an accident. No crime, for God's sake. There, the car simply crashed into a pole at full speed and caught fire. It looks like he didn't even brake. I wouldn't describe the details to you, but the video is already all over the news. Natasha pressed her palms to her cheeks and left the office. She signed the identification protocol, although she felt with some sixth sense that these things meant nothing. Matvey called all his jewelry and watches, and there were a lot of them, toys. He seriously treasured only that very earring made of surgical steel. Natasha always laughed that with this ring her husband looked like a pirate. And the strangest thing was that he was not found at the scene of the accident. She and Klavdia Petrovna called a taxi. The manager walked Natasha to the entrance and announced that she was giving her the day off tomorrow. Then she left. She herself had been receiving calls from work for a long time. Natasha went around to the entrance and went up to the apartment. It was strange to go home, realizing that Matvey would not come there anymore. On the windowsill between the floors she suddenly noticed a figure resembling a ruffled sparrow. It was her mother-in-law. Having brought her daughter-in-law, Svetlana Anatolievna jumped up and rushed to her, sobbing. Natasha, the video is so terrible. My son has become famous, albeit posthumously, she howled. Please stop, Natalia sighed. Why did you even decide that Matvey was there? Who else? The mother-in-law asked. The car is rare, the make and model, the only one in the whole city. And those stupid boxing gloves on the windshield. They are clearly visible there. How many times have I asked Natasha to take off this crap? But they distracted me from the movement, like a hypnotist's pendulum. So, it was Matvey after all, she sighed. She hated this suspension of his. And they pestered me with DNA. Sighed the mother-in-law. What will I tell them? We hid it for so many years, we even moved from the other side of the city. I was his mistress when Alla, my Savel Ivanovich's first wife, died, and Matyusha was tiny. His mother was a completely unbreak woman, although they do not speak ill of the dead. The adrenaline junkie also died in an accident. You will want to, but you will not believe the story. Quote. And Matvey knew that you were not related, Natasha asked. Yes, his father whispered to him 2 years ago before his death, confessed, so to speak, Svetlana Anatolievna answered. But don't think about it. My son told me right away that he still considers him his own. You know, we got along well. I didn't believe it at all when I heard it, Natalia agreed. Or maybe the first teeth, the umbilical cord, were left there. I don't know, many people keep things like that from their babies, and strands of hair too. But there's nothing. We scattered the boxes when we moved, Svetlana Anatolievna smiled through her tears. Matvey pestered me with questions just like you. What can you answer when there's nothing? And Matyushin's father was cremated, too. Natasha gave her blood tea and called her a taxi. Despite the fact that the story was confirmed, she still could not believe what had happened. She found the video of the accident and by midnight she had probably watched it 100 times. There was a heated discussion of the situation on social networks, and Natasha could not get rid of the thought that at the moment the car flew into the camera frame, someone fell out of her door on the right or jumped out. It was literally a split second, but it was enough to strengthen her doubts. The same dreary days flowed by. She asked Klavdia Petrovna to give her more work, got busy with work, and 3 weeks later the funeral took place. Preparing for it, she sorted through her husband's things and recalled the events that preceded his death. Those days were extremely strange. First, a message came from an unknown number. Not a single letter, only pictures. Matvey with the same woman. She was very beautiful, not like Natasha. Bright, flashy, brunette with a bold and predatory face. Here her husband was tenderly hugging this lady at the sea, and in another frame he was already holding her on his lap in the car. As soon as Natasha looked at the photos, they disappeared, and in general, all the correspondence was deleted. And the next day, she saw this woman with a photo from the bus window. Natasha jumped out, ran from the bus stop towards the place where she saw the stranger, but she disappeared into thin air. And at night, another message came. It contained the name Liza Lenskaya. And also a request not to look for her or stalk her. A search on social networks allowed us to understand that this was the very same husband's mistress, some singer in a local cabaret, a former girlfriend of a bandit. The next morning, Natasha asked her husband, "Have you heard of Ali Zelenskaya? I want to go listen to her." "No, what's wrong?" "The name sounds like some blogger or chanson singer," Matvey laughed. "Who praised you for this vulgarity?" "I don't remember. I read somewhere that she sings great," Natasha answered. "No, I've definitely never heard of her," Matvey chuckled. "Let me get a season ticket to the opera instead. My companion Arseny goes with his wife, he says, he can't tear himself away." This conversation took place 2 days before Matvey died, and then he crashed. He never bought a season ticket. And anyway, maybe someone was just playing a joke on Natasha with this imaginary lover? She continued to pack for the funeral. Despite the closed coffin, they were told to bring clothes and shoes. And now Natasha was feverishly sorting through her things. Only some of them were simply missing. His favorite jeans, knitted sweater and boots were gone. Unfortunately, she didn't know what her husband was wearing on the day of the accident. Perhaps the things simply burned along with the car. Trying not to think about it, Natalia prepared the necessary things and called a taxi to take everything to the morgue. The funeral was quick and calm. There weren't many people. Mostly employees of the company owned by her husband, plus his partner, mother, childhood friends and just acquaintances. Natasha had never seen many of those gathered before. Svetlana Anatolievna had invited them, and she had also organized the wake in some cafe in the area. Having the opportunity, Natalia called Arseny aside and asked him, "How are you? I still can't get my head around the fact that Matvey is gone." Same thing, her husband's partner nodded to her. After all, he was driving from the office that day, racing as usual. He even laughed that speed was in his blood. And he did drive. What a race car driver. "Listen, I have a question. What will happen to the company now?" she asked Natasha. "Our charter states that if one owner dies, the other gets the entire company," Arseny answered with a cold face. "Do you want to take the business?" "No, what are you saying? We have a prenuptial agreement," Natalia shook her head. "And in any case, I have already written a waiver of any inheritance in favor of Svetlana Anatolievna. I have my own apartment, I have a job, she is a lonely pensioner." "That's right," Arseny nodded. "Did you identify your husband yourself?" "There was no need. They only showed us his things," Natalia waved her hand. "Listen, what was Matvey doing that day anyway?" "He came to the office, sat for an hour, then said he was going to run away on business." Arseny listed conscientiously. Everyone knew what business he was in. "Another girl. He cheated on me," Natasha was surprised. "Don't lie, Arseny." "Well, I didn't hold a candle to it," the man answered unexpectedly sharply. "Think about it, Matvey, he's not your type of guy. We still don't understand how he managed to marry a kindergarten teacher." Quote, "Do you know a woman like Liza Lenskaya?" she asked Arseny. His face changed. "No, who is she?" "You know, no one has ever introduced us to Matvey's mistresses." Quote. Natasha sighed and stepped aside, knowing full well that no one was going to tell the truth here. The young woman quietly got ready and left the memorial hall. A week later, on her day off, she came to clean up her husband's grave. Of course, she still didn't fully believe that it was Matvey who was lying there, but that didn't change the fact that she was officially a widow. And was going to fulfill her duty to her husband in good faith. She bought artificial flowers at the cemetery gate and headed toward the grave. It rained. The wreaths now looked untidy. Red clay stuck to the tapes. Natalia pulled on rubber gloves, rolled up her sleeves and got to work, putting the fresh flowers aside. And only at that moment did she realize that she was not alone. There was someone in the shadow of the bushes along the edge of the grave. Obviously a child. An adult simply would not have fit there. "Come out, I see you," Natalia tried to smile. "Show yourself, don't be afraid, I don't bite." "What are you doing here?" he asked, taking a step toward her. A boy of about 9. Dirty, in not very fresh clothes. By the look of it, he was clearly a street kid. He was convulsively clutching some kind of newspaper bundle in his hands. "I came here to tidy things up a bit," Natalia explained. "This is my husband's grave, he died." "That's not true," the boy answered seriously. "I know for sure, my friend is buried here. He was the one who died in the accident that the whole town is talking about." "Seriously?" Quote. Natasha was amazed. "How could you know Matvey? Where did you get it from? It seems like he had no contact with children." "There is no Matvey there," the boy was offended. "My friend's name was Makar, and I am Denis. And my name is Natasha," the widow sighed. "And why do you think that some Makar is lying there?" "Don't call him names," the child asked, taking a wooden figure of a fox with a sly face out of his bundle. "Here, please put this up, Makar carved this for me as a keepsake." "Okay," Natasha agreed. "So why is Makar here?" "I saw him get into that car here by the cemetery that day. It's very noticeable. I've never seen one like it," Denis explained, and then crashed. Too little time passed there, and Makar did not appear in our shelter again. He had definitely been dead for more than a month. Quote, "What kind of shelter?" Natasha asked. Her heart was breaking with pity for this unfortunate child, who obviously lived on the street. "And where did the man who arrived in that car go?" Quote, "I don't know," Dennis answered seriously. "And the shelter is an old crypt. We spend the night there until winter comes. At first it was scary, but then Makar explained to me that the dead would not hurt anyone. So what? Who knows? There are stone coffins there. Are they afraid of them now? At least it's quiet, no one hurts you and you can collect food from the graves. It looks like you're frozen and shivering," Natasha noted. Quote, "You know, I live alone, I work as a teacher in a kindergarten. Maybe we should come to my place. Will you get some sleep in a real bed and eat?" "Yeah. Lure me in and sell me," Dennis waved his hand. "Definitely not," Natasha laughed. "And anyway, what do you have to lose? You probably live in some mansion," the boy drawled. "And not alone. Children there, servants. Yes, I live in an ordinary apartment, in a multi-story building. If anything, you can call for help," she smiled. "Let's go, really, I'll make soup, stew the meat. And do you know how to cook pancakes?" Dennis asked businesslike. "If anything, I'll teach you. We made them in the orphanage during cooking class." "And you don't have parents?" Natasha asked, feeling even more sorry for the little ragamuffin. "They drank themselves to delirium tremens and died," the boy shook his head. "They all immediately got poisoned by some kind of thing. I got up in the morning, and they were lying there." Natasha took his hot hand and led him away from the cemetery. At parting, the boy put his figurine next to her bouquet. It seemed that he seriously believed that a businessman disrespected in the city was buried here, and his friend. The same homeless woodcarver. Natasha walked to the exit from the cemetery and wondered, if there is someone else in the grave, then where is Matvey? And why did he need to fake his death? After all, he could have just gotten a divorce. She would not have held him back. Quote, "They got home in an hour. The bus was long gone." Natasha gave her little guest her terry robe and sent him into the shower. She herself went down to the store below, bought several sets of children's underwear and pajamas. All this was given to Dennis, flushed after bathing. Then the boy ate pancakes to the brim and fell asleep. Before that, he told Natasha that the older children in the orphanage were bullying him and sending him to beg in the city, but he had already escaped a couple of months ago and before the accident he lived under Makar's protection. Natasha carried Dennis to her bedroom and covered him with a blanket. The boy fell asleep, but did not even wake up. She felt sorry for him to tears. She herself could not have children. There was some kind of anomaly in the body, which prevented this. And this street kid seemed like the very child that fate had sent her. Natasha threw Dennis's old clothes into the washing machine, went to the kitchen to drink tea and think, but her thoughts were suddenly interrupted by the intercom ringing. Soon Merit Alexandrovich, the same young policeman, was already entering the apartment. He glanced sideways at the children's sandals at the entrance and asked, "Am I at the wrong time? Do you have guests?" "Everything is fine." An acquaintance asked her son to sit with her. Natasha smiled. "How is it? Do you want me to feed you some pancakes?" "Thank you very much. You are a real savior. I haven't eaten anything since this morning," the policeman rejoiced. Natasha, having gone cold, and Natasha had not thought about what would happen if a missing street child was found in her house, poured tea. Having fed the guest, she prepared to listen to his story. "You know, well, I can't eat. I immediately become kind," Merit Alexandrovich grinned. "Anyway, look, here's the thing. The car that burned down was not your husband's, but exactly the same. We found the engine number, it doesn't match. And no one would have checked. The case is closed. It's just that an expert, a young trainee, decided to double-check everything. And you came to me with this," Natasha sighed. She didn't have enough of her own doubts. "What do you have? Share," asked Merit Alexandrovich. You know, I come from a family of police officers and I am absolutely sure that even if you can't pin a suspicion on a case, you still need to listen to your intuition. It seems that your intuition was telling you straight away that there are problems with this case. Someone saw a car that got into an accident near the cemetery that day. You can probably check the cameras, Natasha said. A homeless person got into this car. He drove away in it, or maybe as a passenger. I'll tell you honestly, it's interesting, Marit Alexandrovich smiled. You see, I now have a personal interest in this case. I want to figure out what's going on here. By the way, the insurance company offered to investigate all this privately to my father. They don't want to pay, and he's a retired detective. He looks for missing dogs, tracks down unfaithful husbands. Anyway, if you have any valuable ideas, call. And who applied for insurance? Natasha asked with interest. I definitely didn't contact anyone. And anyway, was Matvey insured? Oh, there's a whole saga there, Marit Alexandrovich smiled. The recipient is not named. Maybe your mother-in-law or former partner and heir to the business got busy, but in light of recent events, I think your husband was killed quietly, and then pretended to have died in an accident. In fact, the man is lying at the bottom of the river or buried somewhere in the woods. Oh, come on, tell me horror stories, Natasha waved her hand. And what are you going to investigate now? I'll help my father unofficially as much as I can, the policeman smiled. But my bosses are really furious right now. There's no one to work, everyone is on sick leave and vacation. So it's all so sporadic. Don't count on a quick result. Natasha saw the guests off, made sure that Dennis still hadn't woken up, and then breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't want the boy to be seen by the police and generally planned to somehow discreetly find out about the possibility of adoption, without telling him yet that he was at her house. She fell asleep pretty quickly, and in the morning it was a day off, she didn't find Dennis in bed. But the smell of scrambled eggs and sausage hung in the kitchen. When Natalia showed up there, the boy was sitting and gobbling up his breakfast. I did a little housework here, he said. By the way, it wouldn't hurt to buy a bunch of groceries on the shelves. I don't need much on my own, Natasha smiled. We'll eat now and go shopping. Your clothes are washed and drying. Someone came yesterday, quote. Dennis casually asked. The policeman on my husband's case. I told him about your friend, quote. Maybe he'll be able to see the cameras, Natasha told the boy. By the way, would you mind staying with me for a while? Is that possible? Dennis asked. It's certainly better here than in a crypt or an orphanage. No one snores or screams, and the food is delicious. I'll try to find out about your adoption carefully, she suggested. But don't rush to run away, it's unlikely to be quick. But while the paperwork is being processed, you'll most likely have to return to the orphanage. Okay, Dennis muttered. Maybe I'll bother you even more. There have been adoptive parents who were like animals in a zoo. They took me to play with me, and then returned me. They said I wasn't funny enough. No, I won't do that to you, Natalia promised. And anyway, let's just live one day at a time. It's fine to eat today. By the way, I'm entitled to vacation. I need to take it, at least I'll have a decent time, and you won't have to mope at home alone. The next day, Natasha got ready and went to the guardianship authority. They didn't greet her very happily there, listened to her, and advised her to get rid of her fantasy as soon as possible. Quote. Are you a kindergarten teacher? Yeah. We can imagine the salary size, the employee chuckled. And she's also a widow, at least with an apartment. I'll tell you right away, almost no chance. No one will give you the child. They'll refuse on arrival. What's this? Natasha was indignant. So many children live without parents. And what, can't they adopt? That's for the rich. Why doom orphans to poverty? The woman chuckled. They live just fine without you under the care of the state. Believe me, and they have leisure time there too. Regular, and clothes are provided, and the food is sometimes better than in some homes. Well, of course, That's why children run away from such wonderful conditions, Natalia smiled. I understand you. She left the guardianship and went to her kindergarten to write an application for leave. Claudia Petrovna was even glad that Natasha made such a decision. Her workaholism lately was frightening, and the teacher looked so that they would put paint in a coffin. Claudia Petrovna, do you have a friend in the guardianship? Natasha suddenly asked. How can you adopt a child, for example, if you are a kindergarten teacher? I don't want to hint at anything, Claudia Petrovna smiled. But the easiest way is to give to relatives, even the most distant ones. If you find some connections with the child, the decision is almost always positive. I don't have any friends in the guardianship, but I do in the Legislative Assembly. If you suddenly need to prove kinship. Interesting, I didn't even think about it, Natasha grinned. Perhaps we will talk about this topic later, and you come visit, okay? Claudia Petrovna nodded. She understood perfectly well that right now she had become a participant in some wonderful conspiracy that could change Natasha's life. She also received her vacation pay and happily went to spend it with Dennis. They bought him clothes, and took a summer dress for Natasha. The boy insisted. In the store, the saleswoman mistook them for mother and son, and Dennis easily played along, calling Natasha Mom. Then they walked, ate ice cream in the park by the fountain. The boy was so wonderful, and Natasha could not imagine how she could part with him. The vacation flew by. 3 weeks later, Natalia was getting ready to go to the cemetery again. She wanted to leave Dennis at home, but he was against it. They had to go together. They walked along a narrow alley to the grave. There was a dried-up bouquet there. But the fox figurine, carved by Makar, was gone. Dennis thought that other homeless people had stolen it, but Natasha didn't think so. Quote, Listen, is there a watchman here? She asked. Of course, Semyonich is probably sleeping in his little den, Dennis smiled. I'll show you where it is now. He grabbed Natasha's hand and dragged her into the labyrinth of burials somewhere into the distance. Soon she completely stopped understanding this cemetery navigation. But the boy still felt like a fish in water. He led them to a plain shed almost at the very exit from the churchyard, and then screamed at the top of his lungs. Quote, Semyonovich, someone has come to see you on business. Dennis, oh, Tishelma, he's alive. Grandpa in a quilted jacket jumped out of the closet, and they said that you were kidnapped for your organs. Of course, Dennis responded importantly. Quote, At home I now live with a bathroom and a TV. Oh, you Borchuk, the elderly man said affectionately and asked Natasha, Are you here on business? Tell me, do you have cameras at the cemetery? She asked cautiously. How else? Yes, well, only around the perimeter. What, has the grave been robbed again? Semenovich asked. It would be safer to install a hidden camera here. There is a suitable one. You can catch the thief right away. Can we install it? We'll show you where, Natasha asked. An hour later, Semyonich's pocket was filled with the pleasant rustling of money, and Natasha agreed that she would come in a couple of days to check the recordings. She and Dennis went home. These 2 days, Natalia was not herself. It seemed to her that the camera would be a real breakthrough. It would allow her to see Matvey at the grave, who probably came there. Dennis saw her anxiety and did not bother with heart-to-heart talks. Take the video, she went alone. On the way to the old woman, her gaze came across another fresh grave. There was a portrait of a woman, the same one, with a photo with her husband. And the name also matched. Liza Lenskaya. As it turned out, she died just a few days ago. Surprised by such a coincidence, Natasha went further, took the recordings from the guard camera and went home. There, together with Dennis, they looked through the materials and found out a very unusual thing. At night, a lonely figure dressed in rags But it wasn't Matvey. Dennis looked at him for a long time, and then shouted, "It's Makar. So it turns out he's alive. Who's in the grave then?" Quote. Natasha asked. "It looks like I need to find and question your friend." "How can I do that?" "I'll have to go to Semyonik again," Dennis answered matter-of-factly. "He knows everything, not even a fly can get through." The elderly guard was surprised to see Natalia again so quickly. And when he realized what kind of man she was talking about, he grinned. "So you're looking for Makar. It's not that hard. He often hangs around here. Lately, I don't know where he's hanging out every night during the day. In general, he's a good guy, but he's too murky. You can't understand what's on his mind." Quote. "I need to meet him," Natasha whispered. "So what, should I stand guard at the grave until nightfall?" "Why?" "I'll tell him. Leave your phone number, we'll call," Semenovich grinned. "We don't live in the taiga, we have means of communication." "Thank you very much," Natalia said. She hurried to leave the cemetery before dark, but no one called that day or the next. And then suddenly she received a call from an unfamiliar number. Quote. "You wanted to meet me," the man said. It was definitely not her husband. "Yes, I did," Natalia muttered. "Come to your husband's grave in 2 hours. And, for God's sake, don't drag Dennis with you," he demanded. They had already created too many problems with their fuss. Natasha warned the boy that she was leaving and went to meet the. For the first time, seeing Makar, about her age, thin and exhausted, she gasped. The man had an earring in his ear just like Matvey's. Quote. "Where did you get that?" she exclaimed. "Don't yell, just ask already," he was indignant. "It's a long story. Let's go somewhere. At least behind that monument. Nobody comes to see it anyway. It's a very old grave. Enough riddles, huh?" Natasha was indignant. "Give me a normal explanation. Where did you get an earring in your ear like my husband's?" "And that guy from the portrait is the deceased husband?" Makar asked her mockingly. "Well, it's definitely not him in the grave. There's a certain Vlad there, who burned up along with the car. Actually, this story didn't start on the day of the accident." "So you're saying that Matvey is alive?" Quote. Natasha asked, gradually coming to her senses. "He had an expensive setup. A second car, a corpse, things. And for what purpose? I don't know. They didn't let me in on the details," Makar answered angrily. "Nobody said that I'd have to die. They just told me to show up in a conspicuous car on the cameras in the city, and I'm the only one with a license from our cemetery, well, homeless people." "And how did you end up on the street anyway?" Natasha asked. "With your profession, with your license?" "Oh, out of great stupidity," Makar chuckled. "I trusted the woman I loved, and she left me without a workshop, a car, and an apartment. She sold everything and rushed off with her gang of swindlers. And I, having lost all the court cases, became homeless." "Well, that's unusual. It must be a shame to lose everything," Natalia noted. "Oh well, my great-grandfather lost even less," Makar smiled. "The desire for adventure is in our blood. But are you even going to listen? One of the conditions for preparing for this staging of your husband was to pierce his ear. I resisted as best I could, but I had to make concessions. They paid well. It was enough to rent an apartment for 6 months." "So, all this time you were hiding there?" Natasha asked. "Exactly so," Makar nodded. "But that very day, everything went wrong. That Vlad Bugay, who looked like a security guard or a bandit, was in the car with me. He demanded that I changed clothes, put on a watch, a ring, and this earring. I only had time to change my clothes. Well, and put in the earring, and then I had doubts. We got into the car, drove off, and this crazy guy tried to give me an injection in the leg." "Injection with what?" Natasha gasped in amazement. "How should I know? We started to fight, and this Vlad dropped the wheel. I saw that there was a pole in front of me, and jumped out of the car, opened the door. I used to do parkour in my youth, so I was almost not hurt. Well, and quickly got out of there. So, I didn't imagine the opening door in the video, Natalia smiled. Listen, Dennis is very worried about you, and now I am too. Let's not lose each other, at least exchange addresses. Or even better, give me your phone number. An address is more reliable. A phone can be tracked, Makar muttered angrily. Listen, maybe you have a dacha? I would be happy to go there moved in. You can even move in with Deniska. I'm afraid my current place of residence is no longer very safe. And you just move in with me, Natasha suggested. We'll wash you, dye your hair, change your clothes. There's plenty of men's clothing in the apartment. No one will recognize the former. My vacation is ending, and I don't want to leave the child alone. Okay, Makar nodded. But let's do all this somehow at night, so as not to attract unnecessary attention. Okay, take the keys, you can come in yourself after midnight, Natasha whispered, dictating the address. She drove home, feverishly wondering if there would be enough sleeping places for everyone in the apartment now. But she remembered the folding bed in the closet and calmed down. Her guest could easily fit in there. She didn't explain anything to Dennis, although he was dying of curiosity. And when Makar entered the apartment at night, the boy simply hung on his neck, literally sobbing with happiness. The one who was supposed to die instead of her husband arrived with a backpack and a large bag. It turned out to contain tools for wood carving. Makar went to sleep in the pantry, the so-called mother-in-law's room. There was enough space here, and there were no windows. Natasha had long ago changed the locks and was not afraid of her late husband's visit. Well, other visitors would simply not have seen Makar in the pantry. The next day, she decided to share her discovery with her mother-in-law. She got ready and went to the country village where, after the death of her husband, Svetlana Anatolievna lived completely alone in a huge house, having dismissed all the servants. Natalia's father-in-law was a really rich man, but his wife only got the house from him. The rest went to her son, who wasted his fortune on the wind. At least, that's what Natalia thought. She arrived, Svetlana Anatolievna delighted. And I myself already wanted call. Are you even aware that Matvey is alive and well? Natasha asked, closely watching the woman's reaction. She looked genuinely surprised. It can't be, you're wrong, Svetlana Anatolievna muttered. I think your son pulled off some kind of scam, Natasha sighed. By the way, you don't look good. I have cancer, the last stage, there is no treatment, the mother-in-law answered sadly. I didn't want to tell you, and I've already had enough. But in a couple of months I'll need hospice. There's no point in hiding it any longer, especially since you are my heir. Quote, why is that? Natasha was surprised. I wrote a will. And even if Matvey suddenly turns out to be alive, I will not change it, answered Svetlana Anatolievna. Or maybe I should move in with you to look after him. I think it is impossible to stay alone at such a time. True, there is one problem. And Natasha told her mother-in-law about the boy and about Makar. But that is not a problem, Svetlana Anatolievna smiled. For once, my husband's architectural excesses will come in handy. There is another house behind the house. The boy and your friend can live there. The plot is huge, no one will see them. We can take a car and organize the move. Natasha warned Makar and Dennis that they needed to pack their things. Then Svetlana Anatolievna took them away, and Natasha went to work, this time to quit. Having learned the latest news, Claudia Petrovna simply suggested that she take an indefinite leave for her account, but Natalia insisted on resigning. She understood that she was already changing her life radically. Albeit quite unexpectedly. The next few months flew by in the blink of an eye. Having buried her mother-in-law and inherited everything from her, Natalia suddenly became a wealthy woman. During this time, she, Dennis and Makar repeatedly tried to track down her late husband, but there were no results. He disappeared without a trace. And even at the club where Liza Lenskaya once sang, they were not told anything new. Makar again made his workshop in the guest house, converted the empty garage, and while Natasha was busy with her sick mother-in-law, he made carved lamps and other small things. One day she decided to have a serious talk with him. Listen, there are normal people in the police. So what if the case is closed? I think you need to tell everything. After all, you are the victim in this story. Well, yes, of course. That's how they will sort it out, the man grinned. Formally, man, probably sent to death. Although he defended himself, he himself escaped it, and there is no evidence. Let this story continue to grow in moss and quagmire, and I will remain unknown in the equation. But it is not your fault, Natasha sighed. Who cares? Makar snorted angrily. There's no point in stirring up the past. I have already gone to look for the truth, and, as you can see, it all led to life in a cemetery crypt. Quote. She decided not to insist on her own and to take up the adoption of Denis. Having discussed everything with Klavdia Petrovna, her friend, first from Makar, who was born and previously lived in another region, they made the boy his distant relatives according to the documents, then they registered a workshop, opened a business. Only after that Denis had to return to the shelter for a short time. That's where the second cousin turned with a request to give him guardianship. The respectably dressed man, the owner of his own business, was much more to the liking of the social workers than a simple kindergarten teacher. Denis was soon reunited with his family. The money he inherited from his mother-in-law helped speed up the paperwork. Listen, you do so much for me, Makar told her gratefully, sitting in the gazebo near the house in the evening. They had just launched his website for receiving orders and were now looking at it with interest. No problem. You know, I have a feeling that you and Denis have given me a whole new world, Natasha answered. After all, I will hardly ever be able to have children of my own, and this boy is so wonderful. Marry me, and you will eventually become a real mother to him, Makar suggested. Is this official or are you just joking? Natasha asked. You know, I don't understand what to take seriously anymore. Everything has changed so much in a matter of months. Quote. Will you agree or should I do something else? Makar asked his beloved. Just words are enough, Natasha smiled, shaking shavings out of his hair. In this situation, the main thing is not to become a bigamist. After all, it looks like I'm not a widow, Matvey is alive. And we will not tell anyone about this, Makar laughed. They got married 3 months later and lived quite happily. After 5 years, no one remembered that strange story. Policeman Marit Alexeyevich did not bother them anymore. Natalia did not return to work at the kindergarten. Instead, she opened a private group in her elite village. Having resigned from the post of director of the kindergarten, Klavdia Petrovna became her business partner. Life went on as usual. In the respectable cabinet maker, no one would recognize the former. Makar became a famous craftsman, fulfilling orders in the most expensive and rich houses. Here he took another call from a client without much surprise. Tomorrow I'm leaving, they want to furnish a house in the neighboring region and cover the office with carved panels. I need to go and take measurements, he warned Natalia. Okay, are you alone or with Denis? He's on vacation, his wife asked. And in general, you could send an assistant, but the client there is somehow shady, unclear. I want to see him myself, so that there are no surprises later, said Makar, and there is no point in sending an assistant to the neighboring region. He won't be able to come to an agreement anyway. I'm somehow uneasy, Natasha admitted. Maybe you won't go alone? Well, take someone with you, and then let Denis stay at home. I'll find him something to do. The next day Makar went on a business trip, got up early, left home by car, taking his assistant Oleg with him. They got there quickly, but Makar was not feeling well, he was getting sick, so he put on a mask that was lying in the glove compartment so as not to infect anyone. It was not for nothing that the owner of the house seemed strange to him on the phone. The man did not really understand wood and its types. There was a complete feeling that this man just wanted to furnish the house more expensively and richly, and was ready to immediately give a solid advance. But Makar stubbornly did not like something about this man. Taking pictures of the walls of the house and the interior with a professional camera, he accidentally snapped a couple of pictures of the owner of the house, sent the pictures to cloud storage, and deleted them from the camera. And not in vain. Before leaving, the owner, who introduced himself as Pavel, as if by chance, asked to look at the footage. Home Makar and Oleg they drove in silence. They already understood that they were unlikely to take on this order. And in the evening, the owner of the workshop brought up 2 photos with a strange customer on the monitor and sat looking at them. He stubbornly could not understand the reasons for his anxiety. Quote, "Are you coming soon? We are already sitting down to dinner," Natalia reminded, looking in on her husband. "And what are these funny pictures you have here?" "Well, the customer seems familiar. I just can't figure out what's going on," Makar sighed. Natasha looked at the monitor, and her eyes darkened. It became difficult to breathe. The woman came to after a while on the couch in the workshop. She opened her eyes and asked, "Makar, show me this photo again." "No, what's wrong? You fainted anyway, you scared us all," her husband was indignant. "I didn't even show it to Dennis." "And you open it, maybe he will notice," Natalia grinned. "It's the same guy from the monument," their son immediately said confidently. "Dad, look, you don't notice anything." "Exactly. He dyed his hair. He grew a beard, his mustache got thicker. But his eyes are the same, right?" Makar gasped. "And how come your Matvey didn't recognize me? By the way, he lives quite luxuriously for a dead man. Very respectable even. He has a rich house." "Yeah." It was clear from the very beginning that this scam was not started in order to live in poverty, Natalia sighed. "And what to do now? Report him to the police? And it turns out that our marriage is recognized as invalid. And in general, all the documents, Dennis's adoption, for example. Well, if you keep quiet, the worst might happen. You know what Matvey is capable of," her husband reminded her. "It's better to protect both us and the child." "Okay, I'll try to find the investigator who handled the case," Natalia promised. And after a while she contacted Marat Alexandrovich. Now he was the head of the department, but he remembered Natasha too, and after listening to her words, he was even happy. After all, he could have gotten a bonus for solving such a high-profile scam. He promised that he would do everything himself. And a month later, the news showed a story about the high-profile arrest of a fraudster who had been pretending to be dead for many years. Makar recognized both the house and its owner in his new uniform, and Natasha kept looking at Matvey's face in the frame and did not understand what was going on, why he had been hiding for so many years, and who he had been running away from 6 years ago. A few days later, Marat Alexandrovich called. "Your ex-husband refuses to talk, but promises to make a deal if his wife agrees to see him. I understand that this is about you. Come, Natalia Leonidovna." "Yes, I myself would like to talk to him," she sighed. The ex-husband was still being held in a cell at the city's main police station. They were brought to Marat Alexandrovich's office. Matvey looked unusual. His hair was now completely white. His beard and mustache hid his face from prying eyes. Natasha sat down opposite her husband, who had to be buried. "Was it worth it, Matvey, or should I call you Pasha now?" "Whatever. My sentimentality was already too expensive. You should have been finished off along with my double." "I wonder," Natalia smiled. "Wasn't the money enough for you? My father's inheritance, a house, a company. And all this is pennies," Matvey snapped. When you asked me about Liza Lenskaya, it became clear that we would have to hurry. The mistress had long been planning to flee from her bandit, taking his money with her. So we thought in advance how each would die on the outside. We even insured my life. Liza was listed as the recipient of the money in the policy. But we had to hurry. My death was staged too early. Then the insurance company dragged out the payments. Liza had to flee in a hurry, having staged her death. Quote, "But you weren't left without money," Natasha said affirmatively. "Yes, I'm telling you, we were prepared. Plus the gangsters, cash collected over 6 months. There was so much there that you wouldn't spend it in 3 lifetimes. We went south. We weren't going to stay here. We got married. Liza got pregnant and gave birth to a baby girl," Matvey said with a sigh. "Consider us people without imagination, but the girls' names are Vera, Nadia and Lyuba. They are 3 years old now." "And where are the children?" Natasha asked. "And how did you end up in the neighboring region anyway?" "A month after giving birth, Liza disappeared. She went to a milk kitchen and never came back," Matvey reluctantly said. "I don't know if she ran away herself or if her ex-boyfriend found her, but no one has seen my second wife since then. I raised the girls with the help of nannies, and then I took the risk of moving closer to my native land. I started doing business quietly, without sticking my head out, and that's how it went. And I called my husband to make furniture," Natalia grinned. "I didn't even recognize your quote. I just realized that there were a lot of photos, but the camera didn't find anything," Matvey sighed. "You know, maybe it's for the best that you turned me in. I generally curse my craving for adventurism. I'll end up as bad as my own mother." "Matvey, stop it. What nonsense. And did you want to ask for something? I followed you on social networks. I know about the adopted child, and in general, that you looked after my mother. In general, Natasha, take my girls under your guardianship, and they certainly did not deserve to be orphans, and with you they will get a chance at a normal life. Do you even understand what you're asking me for?" Natalia was surprised. "How can this be formalized?" "I'll write a power of attorney for you, a notary will come," Matvey promised. "You will be able to manage all my property and look after the girls as an official guardian." "Well, only by power of attorney." "Matvey, and, what do you want?" "There's no one else to ask," Natalia asked. "You want to ruin my life for the second time. Now I need to decide something about my marriage and the documents. Why did you even come here again?" Quote. Having received no answer, she left Merit Alexandrovich's office, and he rushed after her, convincing Natalia to agree to the conditions. Although she had already decided everything for herself. All that was left was to call Makar. "Are you against adopting 3 girls? Or taking them in for upbringing?" "I don't know yet," she asked with a sigh. "You understand, since we're not even husband and wife anymore, we'll have to repeat the wedding too. I'm ready to marry you even every day," Makar laughed. "Your ex's children. Of course, we'll take them. I'll tell Deniska the news now. Prospects and the arrival of sisters. How great that I'm married to you," Natasha smiled. "Get the car ready. We might have to go get the children today." And they also needed to find 3 child seats. Having set the task for her husband, Natalia returned to the office. Matvey looked at her imploringly. He sincerely hoped that the children would not end up in an orphanage. She nodded silently. Soon the notary arrived, everyone signed the papers, and 3 months later, during the investigation, Matvey died in prison, now officially and forever. But his daughters Natasha and Makar were taken into custody, and when they grow up, they will receive the inheritance of their good-for-nothing father. If you like the story, I hope you will support me with the thumbs up button. All the best.